Thank you for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Ephraim Graham.
And I'm Charlene Aaron. The scandal just keeps growing over health care at veterans hospitals across the country. Members of Congress grilled 3 VA officials Wednesday night on the new report that veterans were left off official wait lists and never saw a doctor. And many are now calling for the resignation of the man who heads the VA.
A new interim report by the Veterans Affairs internal watchdog concludes that patients experienced significant delays in treatment at a VA health facility in Phoenix, Arizona. That includes some 1,700 veterans who were waiting for medical care but were not on an official waiting list. The blistering report says veterans waited on average 115 days for their first medical appointment. That's 91 days longer than the hospital had reported. Fireworks erupted on Capitol Hill last night as 3 senior VA officials stood before a congressional hearing on the controversy.
When were these documents destroyed?
What I don't understand is how you can look at yourself in the mirror and shave in the morning and not throw up.
The VA's Inspector General is investigating 26 facilities nationwide. The review follows allegations that several veterans died awaiting treatment and that secret waiting lists were created to hide delays in care. John Goodman, a veteran of the Iraq War, had trouble getting medical attention at a VA hospital in Oklahoma.
I had a broken hand and had to get x-rays on it, and it took over a week to get in, and by the time I got x-rays, the bone had already started healing.
He says long wait times were just one of the complaints common among veterans seeking care.
It takes a month or even longer to even get an appointment. And then when you get there, your appointment is pushed back 2 hours, or you have to go to Muskogee, or your appointment gets canceled without notification.
Some vets never got the help they so desperately needed.
They are at fault why my dad is dead.
Florida's governor plans to sue the Veterans Administration for the right to inspect VA hospitals in the state. And there is now growing pressure that President Obama respond. Many want him to fire the man in charge of the VA, Secretary Eric Shinseki. Both Democrats and Republicans have called for him to resign, with some demanding a criminal investigation.
I believe that this issue has reached a level that requires the Justice Department involvement.
Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel has ordered a sweeping review of the entire military health care system.
The Secretary of Homeland Security faces aggressive questioning over an immigration scandal today. Secretary Jay Johnson appears before Congress to discuss the Obama administration's release of 36,000 convicted criminal immigrants. Johnson has asked for an internal review of the government's actions. The tens of thousands of convicted criminals were facing deportation when they were released by immigration judges.
The CIA's drone program in Pakistan is winding down. That's what President Obama suggested during a major foreign policy speech at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. Obama said the U.S. will continue to carry out occasional drone strikes, but he cited Yemen and Somalia, not Pakistan. At one point, drone strikes occurred at a rate of 2 per week in Pakistan. There hasn't been a drone strike there since last Christmas. Armed CIA drones are still flying regularly over Pakistan's tribal areas.
In that speech at West Point, the president also declared American isolationism is not an option, and he defended his foreign policy from intense criticism after a series of crises from the Middle East to Asia. George Thomas has the story.
Just because we have the best hammer does not mean that every problem is a nail.
6 years into his presidency, Barack Obama says America must continue to be the leader on the world stage. But
U.S. military action cannot be the only or even primary component of our leadership in every instance.
Speaking to graduates at West Point, Mr. Obama laid out again a foreign policy doctrine which he believes must be rooted in diplomacy rather than always resorting to military intervention.
And I would betray my duty to you and to the country we love if I ever sent you into harm's way simply because I saw a problem somewhere in the world that needed to be fixed, or because I was worried about critics who think military intervention is the only way for America to avoid looking weak.
But critics say America has lost influence under this passive doctrine and that the president's indecisions on major crises like in Syria, Iran, Russia, Ukraine, and China, among others, have left the country weak. A recent poll shows 59% disapprove of Obama's handling of foreign policy. His commencement address comes a day after he announced plans to draw down U.S. combat operations in Afghanistan. Currently, some 32,000 American troops are on the ground. That will reduce to 9,800 by the end of this year, with a projected 5,000 in place by the end of 2015. And by 2016, all troops will be out of Afghanistan, except for embassy personnel. This has been America's longest war, but is it ending in victory?
Well, I think it's ending in the best thing you can do, which is give the Afghans the opportunity to decide their own future. This is their country, George. They have to want to fight for it. They have to be prepared to fight for it.
But top Republicans like Lindsey Graham said the president's decision to withdraw troops will only embolden the enemy. Writing on Twitter, Graham said, quote, "The Taliban and al-Qaeda will welcome this decision. The Afghans who fought alongside us will be devastated." The president's West Point address is the first in a series of foreign policy speeches he's expected to give in the aftermath of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. George Thomas, CBN News.
Houston city leaders have approved a controversial gay rights ordinance. The 11-6 vote came late Wednesday after more than 12 hours of debate and months of protests from area churches and Christian business owners. They call the law unconstitutional because it infringes on their right to speak out against homosexuality. Houston Mayor Annise Parker says the measure protects sexual minorities and called it the most personally meaningful thing she will do as mayor. Parker is openly gay. The law takes effect in 30 days.
An atheist group has lost its lawsuit challenging tax exemptions for churches and religious groups. A federal judge in Kentucky dismissed the suit from the American Atheists, a group from New Jersey. They sued the IRS in a Kentucky federal court last year, saying tax-exempt status given to religious organizations is discriminatory and should be ruled unconstitutional. But the judge found the regulations for tax-exempt groups do not favor any group over another.
Another blow in the hunt for that missing Malaysian jet. Searchers now say it's not in that part of the southern Indian Ocean where they thought it was. The Australia-based Joint Agency Coordination Center says they've ruled out the area, even though they thought they heard pings from the jet's black box. A robotic submarine found no sign of the plane after searching 330 square miles.
Egypt has a new president today. General Abdel Fattah el-Sisi claims a resounding landslide with 23 million votes. El-Sisi was expected to win easily based on his popularity for ousting former President Mohamed Morsi and the radical Muslim Brotherhood from power.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is vowing Jerusalem will never be divided. He made the declaration on Wednesday as Israelis celebrated Jerusalem Day. It marks the capture of the Old City during the 1967 Six-Day War. Here's Chris Mitchell.
On June 7, 1967, Israeli paratroopers entered the Lion's Gate and headed toward the Temple Mount. Their advance meant that for the first time in nearly 2,000 years, the Jewish people controlled the Old City and the Western Wall. Jerusalem was reunited under Israeli sovereignty. Many Jews and Christians call that battle a miracle and an historic turning point. That's why every year Israelis celebrate Jerusalem Day. Jerusalem Day is marked by thousands of people coming out to the streets, waving flags, dancing, singing. It's just one outward sign of how important Jerusalem is to the Jewish people.
Jerusalem it is the heart of us and the heart of the world.
And Jerusalem is our place we connect to God.
It's important because this is our history, this is our capital, and this is what the world thinks of us as Jerusalem.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared Israel will continue to build everywhere in Jerusalem.
Jerusalem was unified 47 years ago, and it will never be redivided. Since that day, Jerusalem has developed. It is prosperous and flourishing, and we meet here every year in order to ensure that this prosperity will be even greater, that the construction will be even broader, and that it will flourish even more.
But Palestinians say they want Jerusalem to be the capital of a future Palestinian state. Senior Palestinian Authority official Abu Wala told CBN News there can be no peace agreement without Jerusalem.
It is the second holy place for the Muslims in the world. For the Palestinians, in addition to that, no viability of Palestinian state without Jerusalem.
Police shut down the Temple Mount on Jerusalem Day after Muslims harassed Jewish groups, some wanting to pray on the Temple Mount. The current rules forbid Jews, Christians, or any non-Muslims from praying at the site. Many believe because of this tension, the Temple Mount could become more and more of a flashpoint in the future. In the meantime, Israelis celebrate the reunification of the city. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Muslim rebels stormed a Catholic church in the Central African Republic, killing up to 30 people. The attackers used guns and grenades on hundreds of civilians who had sought refuge at the Church of Fatima in Bangui. Violence has racked the capital city in the 5 months since a Muslim coalition was ousted from power. Muslim rebels retaliated by attacking Christians, leading some Christians to form militia and fight back. Both Muslims and Christian civilians have found sanctuary in the city's churches.
A show of support for Pakistan's embattled Christian community. Reverend Justin Welby, the new Archbishop of Canterbury, is meeting with the country's Christian leaders today. Pakistan is a Muslim nation with a tiny Christian minority that faces harsh persecution. In 2013, more than 127 Christians died in an attack on All Saints Church in Peshawar. Blasphemy laws aimed at protecting Islam are used to imprison Christians and justify attacks against their communities. One Christian mother, Asiya Bibi, is facing a death sentence for a blasphemy conviction. A Christian leader told the UK Telegraph that Welby's visit is, quote, a sign of hope.
Coming up, health alert. If you are not getting enough vitamin D, you could be at risk for a major diseases. Find out what you can do about it. Stories coming up next.
The American Bible Challenge is back. Premiering May 22nd at 8/7 Central. Jeff Foxworthy is ready to play.
The whole family's gonna love it.
Kurt Franklin's gonna sway.
Are you ready?
And you'll see the Bible in a whole new way.
Don't I look chic? That was impressive.
An all-new season premieres Thursday, May 22nd at 8/7 Central, only on Game Show Network.
Pat Boone here with some good news you can trust. Today, our faith, families, and our freedoms are under attack. Polls say 2 out of 3 Americans no longer trust government. A stalled economy, weakening dollar, and politicians willing to steal money from our children to waste on unfixable problems. So, whom can you trust? Well, our money still says in God we trust. But do we? Or have we quietly allowed the things we hold sacred to be stolen by the enemies of traditional values? Today, our government spends almost twice its income, running up a tab for future generations into the hundreds of trillions. How can you stop this from happening to your family? Well, it's all covered in a fantastic new book, The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Dr. Lowell Ponte. Every American needs to read this book. Why don't you call now for a free copy of The Great Withdrawal? It's the simple truth you can trust.
The American Bible Challenge is back. Premiering May 22nd at 8/7 Central. Jeff Foxworthy is ready to play.
The whole family's gonna love it.
Kurt Franklin's gonna sway.
Are you ready?
And you'll see the Bible in a whole new way.
Don't I look chic? That was impressive.
An all-new season premieres Thursday, May 22nd at 8/7 Central, only on Game Show Network.
In Oregon, children as young as 12 could have access to free condoms. The Gervais School Board approved condom distribution to students 6th grade and up. The district superintendent says there were 9 pregnancies in the middle and high school this year, and they hope the condom distribution will bring that number down. Students will have to have a conversation with either a nurse, a counselor, or a sex ed teacher in order to get a free condom.
Nearly 30% of the world's population is now overweight. A new study published in the Lancet Journal found more than 2 billion people worldwide are now overweight or obese. The highest rates are in the Middle East and North Africa, where nearly 60% of men and 65% of women are too heavy. The U.S. has about 13% of the world's fat population, a greater percentage than any other country. China and India combined have about 15%. Researchers also noticed spikes in diabetes and cancers linked to weight.
And speaking of health, if you're like most Americans, you are not doing one of the best and easiest things you can do to stay well, and that's getting enough vitamin D.
That's right. It's crucial for fighting disease. And as Lori Johnson tells us, if you don't get enough of it, it can truly be hazardous to your health.
Vitamin D, we get it from the sun, from some foods, and from supplements. But despite its abundant availability, an estimated 2/3 of Americans aren't getting enough. And that spells real trouble. A major new study of nearly 1 million people finds the lower your vitamin D levels, the higher your risk for certain diseases, including a 35% increased risk of death from heart disease and a 14% increased risk of death from cancer.
Vitamin D is nicknamed the sunshine nutrient because our bodies actually produce it when our skin is exposed to sunlight. To get enough vitamin D from the sun, doctors recommend exposing as much unprotected skin as possible, so no sunscreen, spread out over just an hour or two a week.
To protect against skin cancer, make sure you don't overdo your sun exposure. If your skin turns pink, you've been out too long. If you can't or don't want to get your vitamin D from the sun, some foods are rich in it, such as salmon, mushrooms, fortified dairy, and kale. But even they might not contain all the D you need.
Food sources are really limited, so it's best for most people to take a supplement.
Choose vitamin D3. It makes your heart healthy, improves your immune system, boosts your mood, and since you need it to absorb calcium, it strengthens your bones. But beware, even if you take vitamin D, certain things lower it from your system, such as smoking, obesity, and inflammation, which comes from things like eating too much sugar and trans fats. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Up next, he was a rising star in a political party of anti-Semites until he had a shocking conversation with his 94-year-old grandmother. Hear what she told him when we come back.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
Phil Robertson, the star of Duck Dynasty, will speak to a Republican group in New Orleans today. Robertson will address the Republican Leadership Conference along with other notable figures, including Republican National Committee Chairman Reince Priebus, former presidential candidate Newt Gingrich, some Republican senators, and Donald Trump as well.
Well, imagine one day, out of the blue, you find out that you're not the person you thought you were, and in fact, that you're the very thing that you hate.
Hard to believe, but that's exactly what happened to one political radical in Budapest. Dale Hurd brings us the story of this man's crisis and his amazing transformation.
He was once a rising star in one of Hungary's largest and most controversial political parties, Jobbik. Jobbik has been labeled fascist and anti-Semitic. Csanád Szegedy, still in his 20s, was on a trajectory to lead this party someday.
I joined Jobbik in 2003 when the party foundations were being built. I was a member for 9 years. I was vice president for 6 years and in the European Parliament since 2009.
Szegedy has also been branded an anti-Semite, although in our interview he disagreed.
When I entered Jobbik, I was kind of indifferent toward Jews. I didn't care about Jews. I didn't care about the Holocaust. I didn't consider the Holocaust as a tragedy for the Hungarian people. I read a lot of anti-Semitic literature.
Still, Szegedy was a leader of a party almost universally labeled anti-Semitic, and his public statements showed that at the very least, he still didn't like Jews and was suspicious of them. But that would all change when Csanád Szegedy would learn something about himself that turned his world upside down. Csanád Szegedy was a Jew. Rumors had begun swirling on the internet that Szegedy had Jewish roots, so he went to talk with his 94-year-old grandmother, who had never said she was Jewish.
And she opened up, and she talked about her life, and how she was sent to Auschwitz, and how our whole family was annihilated.
How did this change your view of the Holocaust?
I was shocked. First of all, because I realized the Holocaust really happened.
Not sure what he should do next, he first tried to hide his Jewishness and act like nothing had happened, but eventually realized he could not stay in Jobbik.
I realized I can't take part in any organization that has anything to do with anti-Semitism.
So what do you do when you discover that you are one of the very things that you hated? For Csanád Szegedy, you change. Szegedy contacted local rabbi Shlomo Koves, who first thought it was a joke.
When we met first with Csanád, I had a very mixed feelings because from one hand, I was sitting across somebody that was seen for years as one of the main figures of the Jobbik party. From the other hand, I was sitting across a person, a broken person who has realized what he has done and who has become to a situation where he figured he has to change, but he still doesn't know how to change.
Csanád started attending synagogue and admits that at first some members treated him like a leper and would literally leave the synagogue when he walked in. But some befriended him and he started taking classes at the synagogue, learning Hebrew and the meaning of kosher and Shabbat. How much of your life has changed since you learned that you're a Jew?
It's changed everything. It's like being reborn, and the changes in my life are still happening. I had this value system until I was 30, and I had to admit that it was all wrong and had to find the will to change.
One of the high points of his new life was traveling this year to Israel with his wife and visiting the Holocaust Museum and the Wailing Wall.
When I landed in Israel, airport security asked me a lot of questions. And when the guard asked me, "Are you a Jew?" then for the first time in my life, I could say yes.
What has it been like learning how to be Jewish?
Just to feel like you're on the right way spiritually and you can get closer to God, it's a whole new feeling for me that I'm doing the right thing. My life has been full of incredible miracles, but I believe everyone who chooses the way of God sees miracles.
Dale Hurd, CBN News in Budapest, Hungary.
Do you have an idea for an invention or a new product? Brian and Alice Jagosh, the inventors of the halftime drill driver, did. They invented a power drill attachment that lets you drill, flip, and drive in seconds. Brian and Alice licensed their invention to the company that brought you the Snuggie, and it's now selling in major retailers nationwide. Look for the Invent Help Caveman on the package. If you have an invention that you would like to try to patent and submit to companies for possible review and want free information on how Invent Help may be able to assist you, call now. Invent Help is America's largest inventor service company with sales offices in more than 60 cities nationwide. Call Invent Help today for free information. Our clients made a financial gain with their invention, but this is just their individual result. Brian and Alice's experience is not typical, as only a very small number of inventions are licensed or sold in stores.
For your free inventors information, call 1-800-559-8567. That's 1-800-559-8567.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids. Do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Finally, a California teenager took off to break a world record on Wednesday.
The 19-year-old is attempting to fly around the world solo. If Matt Guthmiller succeeds, he will be the youngest person ever to complete the trip. He was inspired to attempt the flight after a 21-year-old made the trek last spring. Matt says his parents never expected his interest in flying to go so far.
I always played flight simulator games growing up. Always wanted to go eat out at the airport cafe and watch planes take off and land. And, I think at the time, they thought I was just going to do this little 20-minute flight, get it out of my system, and now 3 years later I'm going to go fly solo around the world. I'm not really nervous. Of course, once I get out an hour over the ocean for the first time and all I can see is blue, that might change a little bit.
Brave parents. The trip should take Matt about 40 days to complete. He plans to make 20 stops along the way.
Wow, our prayers are certainly with him. That's a big undertaking.
I tell you.
That's going to do it for now on CBN News Today.
Hope you join us again right here next time. Make it a thankful Thursday, everybody.
Inside every child is a hero, a leader, a friend to others, someone who helps out, who does the right thing, who dreams of what they can be, but they still need our help.
What should I do? What should I say? How should I feel?
That's where Superbook comes in. It provides moral and spiritual truths through situations children can relate to, teaching God's Word to the children you love. Join the Superbook DVD Club and receive Superbook's newest episodes as they're available, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25. Get Superbook today and watch the miracles happen.
Every day, people are connecting on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Now you can be part of the conversation and connect on topics you care about through 700 Club Interactive. Log on to Facebook, Twitter, or go to YouTube and share your opinions, your prayer requests, and your videos while making friends in our community.
Well, welcome to the show.
Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. 700 Club Interactive. Be a part of the show.